Hello there, David Taylor on Mr Pelargonium, back with another video for the Pelargonium and Geranium Society. Today I'm going to be putting on some of the cuttings that we've taken, so let's just get going. Well, hello there, welcome back to the channel. Time has moved on. I'm filming this on January the 7th. It's a Tuesday, it's freezing cold. We're going through a bit of a cold spell of weather in the UK at the moment. Northerly winds, we've had bits and pieces of snow over the last few days, which is quite unusual for the far south of England. So yeah, a little bit different for us. The glass house is thoroughly closed up. Heaters are on every night. It's forecast to get, I think, even colder slightly later in the week, so it's quite interesting. Now, my propagator, though, has been blasting away and cuttings have taken. You can just see there my full propagator, full up. And I really desperately do want to take some more cuttings. But this sort of first batch that I done in the early to middle part of December, a number of them have rooted now. Some haven't, obviously the Regals and some of the other sort of more scented varieties do take a bit longer, take a sort of good month. But we are more or less at that spell now. So I've got a couple here. I've got a peppermint star that's clearly rooted, got lots of nice vibrant growth coming out the top there. It's very solid and sturdy in there. We'll get that out in a moment. And I've got Pelargonium San Francisco that's rooted quite readily. This is a sort of species hybrid. It's a sort of Regal species cross that was developed in America. Obviously, Pelargonium San Francisco, it tells you whereabouts its breeding base was. But it's a great plant. It's got quite an unusual bloom. It's one that I've had for a few years now, but quite a strong grower. Produces this unusual bloom, so I really quite like this one. One of the main things, obviously, that I need to get over is we need to be very careful with how we treat the plants in initially potting them up, but also the placement of them in the greenhouse, because going from low to mid 20s centigrade into a very cool environment, you know, is going to be a little bit of a shock to them. So you need to be very careful with the sort of the potting on of your cuttings in the winter from a propagator, where they've obviously been treated to, well, basically summer temperatures, now being plunged into winter temperatures. Now, as I've said, it is the 7th of January, so the days are just beginning to lengthen. Obviously not massively notable at the moment. So, you know, they're going to get more and more daylight, so that will be good for them. So what I'll be doing is once they are potted, and we'll go through that process in a moment, I will be positioning them just to the left of my bench here, where we've got the heater behind the camera there, and that will blow through, and it will probably keeps this area around about 6 or 7. And that will be ideal for those newly potted cuttings. Now, one thing I have got is my insecticide. I've got to have this because the interesting thing is when I was digging out the base for this glass house, and the sun is bang right in my eyes, so excuse me squinting a little bit if I do. When I was digging out the base of this glass house, where me and my son did the first part of it, there was a lot of root mealybug. We came across it digging out the grass. So it's prevalent here now. I've mentioned it before in southern England, but we're even further south now. So it's about here, I'm afraid. So I have got to be very careful. And I just do have to give my plants this base protection of a systemic insecticide in them, just to give them a bit of protection against this root mealybug. So I'm just going to do initially a small saucer with this in, because I'm not doing a lot of potting up today. So I'm just going to tip a bit of insecticide into a saucer here. They can soak that up, and I'll show you that in a moment. Right, so I'm going to close up now. I'll get these saucers out the way. Right, so we're closed in now. We can see what we're up to here. Now, I've got, as I say, I've got a peppermint star and a Pelargonium San Francisco. Now, I've got some compost here, well-drained compost, my standard sort of 30% of drainage mix of compost. Very important, of course, at this time of year. Now, one thing I do need is a saucer, which I've just moved out of the way. Right, let's have a look at our peppermint star initially. Let's just pull that out of there. Now, I've always said that I like to keep my cuttings on the dry side when I'm first potting them, because I want those roots to be searching out moisture. It's always quite important for me. It's the way I've always done it. I've got a feeling that's the way that John Thorpe always taught me how to do it. He was a famous nurseryman, of course. Came back a number of years. Just need to push this out a bit. And there we are. It's good root on that. I have broken the ball a bit. Oh, I've broken. Let's just have a look at this Pelargonium San Francisco. Now, one of the problems with knocking them out when they're dry is that because they're in quite a loose compost here. Right, you can see we've got, God, at the moment, quite a bit of problem easing this out of this. Right, well, there we are. That's come out. It was a little bit tight in there, actually. It's certainly got a good root to it. That's fine. Now, it is quite dusty, but that's exactly how I like my plants to be, because I want those roots really searching out the damp compost. Right, so that's just in my Bug Clear Ultra, my vine weevil killer, which is suitable for root mealy bugs. I'm just going to write the label on the back, which is the 7th of January 25. Now I'm just using basically a 3.5-inch pot. This is a 3.5-inch full pot, gone up from a 2-inch. I think that's 2-inch, or is it 2.5-inch? I think it might be a 2.5-inch. I think it's a 2.5-inch actually. Yes, it is 2.5-inch actually. Pot. So it's going up. It's going up an inch basically. So it's not huge. I have lost a little bit of compost in trying to break that out of the pot there. So I'm going to put a little bit in the base. Now this compost is slightly damp. If I firm it with my hand, you can see that's how it is, but it's not over wet. You cannot make this over wet, because you could potentially, if you didn't want to use insecticide, just use water in there to a little bit. If you're using a dry root base like I am in this case, you could just use water in that just to give it a little bit of moisture around its roots. You don't need a lot, as I've said. We've really got to bear in mind that we're moving from a warm environment to a cold environment, so you've got to be really careful. Now, hopefully this won't collapse too much. I'm going to hold it together a little bit and just plop that down into the compost. They're held together actually fairly well. It's got a very well developed root. We've got root all breaking around the top of it. So now I am literally just dropping the compost down into the remainder of that of stem to come up to just where there is a little break. I've got a little stipule there, which I'm going to remove. Now, I've shown this many times before, but as I've said, it's not often that I do potting up of young cuttings in the winter. So I thought it was quite important to show you this. So get another handful of compost. Just plopping that down around the base of the plant. I'm not going sort of too deep around it, but you can see there's a stem break there, a little node there, and I do not really want to plant much above that. So I'm just plopping that down. It'll mean it's fairly steady actually. It's keeping up quite well. It was a very tight root ball. Now, one debate that I have got is that normally I would probably nick the top of this stem out just to create the bushy plant, but because it's winter, it's very cold, I'm not going to overshock it by doing that at this point. I'll probably wait maybe 2 or 3 weeks. It's not going to grow a great deal. Um, so I will wait and probably until the turn of the month, just as the days begin to lengthen and the light gets a little bit stronger. I will probably wait on that. But this compost, as I've said, is relatively dry. It's had a little bit of a drink just through sitting it in that insecticide, but it could be water. Use water if you don't want to use an insecticide or don't need to use an insecticide. And there we are. That's it done. Right, now that's that one done. Now I was going to show you this peppermint star, and it completely collapsed the root ball. So I have recovered it. The root ball was formed, but I potted it up anyway, and that's fine. So that's gone up, but the root ball was effectively bare root. But I've got a Robin Louise here, a Stella, one of my own actually, that is ready to go. Clearly see it's all taken, lovely deep greens, and there's even a bit of zone coming on that plant. It's looking really, really nice. These have taken, as I've said, this one was taken on the 11th of December, 7th today, so almost, well, a few days short of a month, but we're getting there. As I've said, I've just got an awful lot of cuttings I do want to get moved on. There we go. That's fine. Plop that in there. That's a lovely root ball. Lovely roots, very white, clearly rooted well. I'm just going to sit that then in there. It will collapse a little bit because it's a very, very, well, sandy compost that it's in. Just ease that out, drop that down. And that's just about sort of getting on for dead level with the top there. Up some of that compost down the sides. The usual thing. This is what I was meant to do with the peppermint star, but didn't always. Things don't always work out for you when you're filming. This is a very good cutting though. Nice bushy little cutting that I've got here. A little bit of a tap just to tamp it down. There we go. That's done. It's potted up to the breaks at the base there. Well, that's absolutely perfect. Let's write our date on 7th of January. A little history for the plant. So there we are. It's just a little bit of common sense needed. They will not need any moisture now. They've had a little bit of a dunk in the water or insecticide there, so they won't need anything more for a couple of weeks. Then I may, if they really start to look dry at the base, just stand them in a saucer and a little bit of water. They won't need feeding because there's feed in the compost initially, just the normal scenario for when you initially pot on. So there may just be a little bit of a debate about, for instance, in sort of taller ones that I want to get a little bit bushy, I will probably wait a week or so, make sure she's all right, and then I might nick the top of that one out. The Stellas, they're fairly compact anyway. I won't need to do anything with those for probably a month or two. See how it develops. So there we are, just a little bit of guidance on potting up cuttings that have been in a warm propagator in the winter, coming out to effectively a winter environment. So you just need to be a little bit careful. So that's just about it from me today. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you again very soon. Goodbye from me for now.